So it's been about 4 years, but I'm finally getting back to coding on Linux. This is coming from a guy that made videos about why I code on Linux instead of Windows, or my Linux Ubuntu setup for software development, or when I had this Arch Linux Rice at some point in time. But lately, I've been coding on WSL2, which I like, on Windows, which I don't. So what I'm doing today is I am setting up this Minis Forum mini PC from Micro Center, who is the sponsor of today's video. They provided me with these gadgets. And this PC is going to be booted up with NixOS. And it'll be directed over into my Windows PC with this Elgato 4K Pro capture card so that I can get back coding on Linux while still having my Windows machine for my other needs. And I'm going to be setting up the entire operating system in this video today. But first things first, let's set up the hardware. Well, that didn't quite go as planned. As you may be able to see in the foreground here, we have a completely new PC setup with the Minis Forum PC. What I have going on here is from the Minis Forum PC, we have an HDMI out into the Elgato, which is connected to my motherboard behind this GPU somewhere. Pro tip, never water cool your PC, because then you can't take anything out without draining the liquid beforehand. But I digress. And then HDMI out to this programming monitor right here. So this monitor is specific to programming, the BenQ programming monitor, and this ASUS monitor is specific to gaming, 165 Hertz. Although not as clear as either of the BenQ programming monitors, but I do like the extra smoothness of 165 Hertz over 60 Hertz. This is just me nerding out a little bit and exactly why I decided to forego the KVM switches in favor of a primary programming monitor and a primary gaming monitor, and then a secondary programming monitor, same type of monitor, but for all my secondary needs. What I was going to do is rock these two KVM switches from Micro Center. One was going to be for the display and any peripherals, and then I had an extra in case I had extra peripherals that I wanted to transfer over. So that way I could use the same keyboard and mouse and everything else between this PC and that PC, but I decided to just do a whole new setup. I'm going to be moving offices and hopefully in 6 months or so anyway. So this will do for now. But now, since I messed with both PCs, and that's the first time I'm setting up the Minis Forum, it is time to test it all out. Moment of truth. Hopefully it'll turn back on. And this one, hopefully this one will turn on as well. Yep, we have Windows.
The accessibility icon in the bottom corner.
Please, I will turn off that audio as soon as possible.
And if you're in the market for a new PC, whether it be a mini PC like this, a custom build, a laptop, check out Micro Center, because they are the absolute go-to place for anyone interested in tech in general.
So this is my first time in a Micro Center. I didn't know what to expect, but it is much bigger than what I thought. This is just the PC build area. Wait till you see the rest.
I mean, they have an insane collection of monitors, TVs, maker equipment, which is like anything from 3D printing to Raspberry Pis and everything in between.
I'm mostly showing you just this like computer area. They have a laptop area over there, but the rest of the store is insane. I've ordered things online from Micro Center, but I've never been to one in person because unfortunately, there's not one near your house. If you have one near your house, consider yourself lucky.
I kind of equate it to the Willy Wonka, like if Willy Wonka got into tech. The place is sick.
Listen, pink isn't really my style, but if it was.
So if you have one near you, I highly recommend going to Micro Center in person. But for those of us who are unlucky and don't have one near us, the website is a huge help as well. They have like a PC builder helper and a lot of resources over there as well. Just click my link in the description and you'll be able to see whatever deals are going on whenever you're watching this. Now, I'm about to install NixOS for the first time.
But I want to first see if my OBS will recognize this display first.
All right, so we're picking up this monitor right here. So I have to install the software for the Elgato. Come down here, and I'm going to go to Video Capture Device. I'm going to call it 4K Pro. And I have my Camlink 4K, Elgato 4K Pro. Wonderful. However, that is a 16:10 monitor, which is why, if you'll notice, this won't be exactly right. Boom. All right, so it works. Now all that I have to do is not really set up Windows, but delete Windows and install NixOS. That ain't that bad. Plug USB into PC. Download the NixOS ISO image, download USB writer, use USB writer to write the image to my USB drive, success, remove USB from content PC, plug USB into mini PC, turn on mini PC and boot into BIOS.
Nice.
In setup and security, make sure secure boot is disabled, which I already did, but I forgot to record. Then in the BBS menu, boot from the USB and hope it works.
Nice. What?
And we're back. Welcome to the NixOS installer. Got to connect to the internet.
All right, let's get to it.
So I'm just going to run through all of this, and I'm going to roll with Plasma. 6, I believe this is, not 5.
Here's my overview right here and install.
Restart now. Let's do it. Ooh, and there we go. We got our app launcher, system settings over here. Ooh, Reach Dark. Yeah, you already know that. Ooh, that is so clean. Ooh, and it snaps in nicely. Whoops. Oh, that is just so clean. And first things first, after ranting and raving about how clean Plasma is, I'm deleting it in favor of Hyprland. Why? I have no reason. But to do that, I went to configuration.nix and removed Plasma in X11, and I'm adding Hyprland, which is just a window manager as opposed to Plasma, which is a full-on desktop environment. You saw everything set up already with Plasma. It was good to go with a file manager, a dock, and GUIs for everything else, just like a normal operating system. Whereas Hyprland, I'm setting up everything manually, mostly because I want to know exactly what I have and why I have it, which made me do a litany of research to figure out what I wanted and what I needed. And one great thing about Hyprland is that it actually does come with a few things that I had on my Arch Linux config that I had to do manually there, but comes with Hyprland here. That is rounded corners on windows, dual QoS blur with transparent windows, as well as tabbed windows, window animations, and some other window managing things. And I have to disable X11 because I'm using Wayland instead. Both of these are display server technologies that allow you to see your desktop and manage windows and all that. And like I said, Plasma had things built in, so I'm removing some other X11 stuff in the SDDM in favor of TTY login. And at some point, I set it up to auto start Hyprland on login. And if I really want to, I can always add an SDDM later, which that stands for Simple Desktop Display Manager. It's just a GUI login, whereas TTY is Terminal Login, stands for Teletypewriter. I don't need the GUI. What I do need, though, is to enable the installation and usage of Hyprland. And everything I want to be a part of the system is added here in environment.system packages like wget, git, foot, with foot being a very simple terminal. And I'll realize I made a typo at some point. I make a lot of typos during this process, and I'm just adding a few at a time, by the way, so I can show you what I add as I add it. Otherwise, I'm just throwing everything in there at once, then have to configure every single thing at once, then, yeah, errors galore. I want to throw these in, configure them as such, fix whatever I did wrong, and then move on to the next. And I'll need to configure Hyprland at some point, which will be in the .config/hyper directory, so gotta make that directory. And oh yeah, here's where I implement auto start Hyprland on TTY log. And I knew I did it at some point. And to apply changes, I'll run sudo NixOS rebuild switch. You'll see this occur from time to time in order to implement each set of changes and test them out, and it yells at me because of the foot F typo. So after fixing that, it freezes up here. No clue why, but I just Control-Alt Delete and it shuts down. And on reboot, you can see the auto login, but I haven't configured Hyprland yet, so it doesn't boot up to Hyprland. It makes sense to me. So after creating hyprland.conf in that previous .config/hyper directory, I throw in some basic configurations just to get things started. And I ran this command again because I wanted to make sure the next time I logged in, Hyprland would auto start. I did that so I wouldn't do the tedious command to manually start Hyprland every time I log in. And that command being Hyprland. And voila, I may have an error up here, I'll fix it, but Hyprland works. Back in configuration.nix, well, I want to edit using NeoVim, so I want to add that, but when I go to apply those changes, I get an error. And that's kind of because after reboot, I am no longer connected to Wi-Fi. So I'll do that, but not on screen because, well, obvious reasons. For my status bar, I went with Waybar because it's an obvious choice. I considered hyprpanel, which is absolutely stunning, mind you, with most configs I've seen at least, but here's the problem. Yeah, and there are reports of freezing and lagging even within the past month, so with Waybar written in C++, much better option for me. I chose my application launcher to be Rofi Wayland. It just seems to be the standard. WL Clipboard would give me basic clipboard operations if I knew how to spell. Throwing Hyprland in here because even though it's already enabled up there, I just want it in the path anyway. I don't think this is necessary, but it keeps things clean for me. Firefox for my web browser, although I am open to alternatives. I've heard about Ladybird recently, like since doing this setup, so I'll dive into researching a little bit about that to see if it's of interest. Learn to type! Alright, that's better. But for each one of these packages, or at least most of them, I'm creating a directory for them in .config and a config file that matches what they recommend within that directory, and setting up some basic configuration because, well, I'll worry about how exactly I want it to look and operate later. I just want to get everything kind of working with the basics. And here's just some, again, basic config for the Waybar. I always liked super plus space on my Mac to launch Alfred. If you know about Alfred, well, you know, it feels pretty nice when I used it back 10 years ago. So I'm using the same bind to launch Rofi. However, on reboot, Waybar didn't work, so I had to find what I did wrong this time, so I ran Waybar, and it gave me an almost correct error, at least the correct location of the error, and would you look at that, misquotation, of course. Now I run Waybar again, and there we go. Rofi has its own special file extension, Rofi Advanced Style Information, or .rosi. Rossi? Something like that. So I'll config Rofi, get that wrong, of course, find the typo, fix it, and it works. But wait, I don't even realize there's another typo, but it works for now. Maybe I'll find that out later. To be fair, I am using a new keyboard that has a little different feel, and the keys are a little too sensitive for my liking, which is why most of my typos, which not these, but most, are adding an F somewhere. My finger just rests there a little too heavily, I guess. And I'm not looking at what I'm typing in the file. I'm reading documentation and touch typing, hoping for the best. I couldn't decide if I wanted just a terminal file manager because I do really like GUI file managers for many reasons, so I just went with both. Yazi, I'm going to call it Yahtzee for terminal, and Thunar for the GUI. They work just fine together, and some thumbnail services for Thunar, plus GVFS, which is a service that I have to enable, and Thunar requires explicit configuration, so I defined this NixOS module for it with a couple plugins. But I soon realized this isn't quite how it works, because Thunar and its plugins are part of the XFCE desktop environment located in Nix packages, which is why I had to define that Thunar module explicitly. As opposed to, how we've been doing it with NeoVim and Yahtzee and all those, I have to come down here and drill into Thunar and the plugins through XFCE. And after each rebuild like this, I had intended to show you each thing I just implemented, but I forgot. I just continued doing it to ensure I had no errors, and once I realize I'm good to go, I'll move on to configuring something else. But I'll show y'all later, and if I wasn't lazy, I've been showing you each thing on the screen as I talk about it. Not sure, I haven't gotten to that point yet, but hopefully I wasn't too late. And Z-Shell, I should say, needs to be explicitly enabled like Hyprland because they both require system level configuration and integration, which is why we had to enable true for Thunar as well. And I added Starship to handle prompt stuff and show things like get status and language versions and all that stuff, but I'm not convinced I won't replace it with OhmyZish, but I may replace it because OhmyZish is a little more complete, but in that same vein, it makes it heavier. So that's why I just started with Starship. Only time will tell. I'll try a whole bunch of things aside from what I'm configuring in this video anyway, so we'll see. This could look completely different in a month. And when that comes, I'll make a video about my updated NixOS setup, so make sure you subscribe. But I do configure Starship and ZSHRC with something I got off the internet, maybe documentation, I don't quite remember, but I think I was scared to reboot it before finishing my config in case I didn't really like it, because that's the shell I'd be working in. Then if I don't like it, I'd spend a whole bunch of time playing with it to fit what I want. I know me, I would have to do that. So I just moved on to configuring WPGTK, which requires Python 3 that I end up removing later. So let's skip over that part and focus on SWWW, which is kind of awesome. It's kind of a drain on resources for no reason other than aesthetics, but It's cool. I mean, why else do you do these things? It's an animated wallpaper daemon for Wayland. Or in other words, allows me to take this cool MP4, which I have to convert to a GIF, so I'll add FFmpeg and use it to convert the MP4 into a 1920 GIF, because, I mean, it would be pretty dumb and resource intensive to keep it 4K since it'll be running all the time. Oh my god, what are you doing, you idiot? Oh, well, I guess this works. Whatever. Beautiful art though. Not gonna lie, I had no idea what Planet of Lana was. Just had to Google it, but apparently it's a console game, a wonderful puzzler with visuals that will leave you in awe. Ain't that the truth? Along with a stunning soundtrack and plenty of challenges. I just may have to check it out. Not sponsored, by the way, by Planet of Lana. Micro Center is the sponsor of this video. Remember, the place to get anything a programmer or a gamer or a tech enthusiast needs. Grimblast will be my screenshot tool. Just got to install it and set up some keybinds for it, which I don't use right now, obviously, because I wanted to show you that I was taking a screenshot, and now you can see the before and after. Look, it worked. And delete. Great, I got stupid swap file crap. I must have fat fingered something along the way. Let me try to fix that. I'm not a Vim user. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So, none of that works. Instead, I decide to ignore my issues and just install Hyprland as my scratchpad, which is basically a plugin manager for Hyprland to extend its capabilities, adding functionality through Python scripts like workspace management or special window rules. I don't know. It was recommended to me, so here we are. Fixed typo again in hyprland.com from earlier, but then I create paperland.json. I was reading something that this is what it recommended. I'm caveating this because I do end up changing it later, but I'll get to that. And then I added a keybind, but couldn't really get it to work. Oh, look, another typo. So I p-kill it, run paper, or I keep calling it paper. Piper is probably how it's pronounced since it's Python, P-Y-P-R, Piper. Anyway, I run Piper and am met with this. I don't know what the heck this means, so I just turn it off and turn it back on again, hoping for the best, and I get yelled at again. Something different this time, though, saying failed to flush Wayland socket. So I just Control-Alt-Delete for a clean system reboot, and SWW takes 45 seconds to display my animated background. Not sure if that's normal. Can't be due to the fact that it's a 4K 30 FPS GIF. Surely. Anyway, back to terminal, and oh great, more problems. My favorite. Oh, and would you look at that? Because I accidentally or kind of had to reboot, my ZSHRC and Starship took over with a new terminal theme and look and kind of. With Starship being the thing that's broken, of course. And that's because whatever the heck I was reading, these brackets were all on new lines. It was open bracket, character, then the next line was close bracket. Maybe, just maybe, I should read the actual documentation. That's probably a good idea. So with that fixed, I ran into what I feared. I don't like it. I actually really liked the default terminal setup for whatever reason, so I hop into my Starship TOML file and get to work. Not bad, but I wanted a bit of a different format and a different font. Okay, the format's there, but let me reload for the font. Yeah, it ain't the one. Back to the original font, just delete everything. And this, I'm happy with this for now that I wasted a solid 45 minutes playing around with it. And I still can't figure out this stupid Hyprland thing, so maybe, just maybe, with this, I should read the actual documentation too. For some of the things, I'm reading the actual documentation. For others, I don't know what I'm looking up. Whenever I do research, I have like 10 tabs, at least, of a particular topic like Hyprland or whatever. Oh yeah, Hyprland, it rhymes. That makes way more sense. But then I'll do all the research and be like, oh, I kind of like this, so I just followed that documentation, which isn't the official documentation, and whatever. That's like a problem I have. I have to like do an insane breadth of research, and then I kind of see what I like, what I don't like, and try to mesh it all together instead of just following the actual documentation. Anyway, would you look at that? It's a TOML file, not a JSON file, according to this documentation, so I'm just going to copy and paste for once and hope for the best. I'm moving on. Decided to add another Thunar plugin while we're at it, and I actually had to manually enable true xfce.tumblr. Would you look at that? A typo? I'll fix that later. Maybe, hopefully. Now just got to set up some basic key mappings for Yahtzee with a little copy pasta since I currently have no preference. I'm just going to learn the basics. Whatever is standard, that's what I'm going to roll with. If something really feels wrong, then I'll change it. And while I'm not the biggest Discord user, I still decided to install Vesktop, which is a Discord client for Linux, just because I thought it was cool. Because like you can add all these cool themes because it's an app and not just Discord in your browser. I don't know. There's that Tumblr typo. I finally fixed it. Now just to config Vesttop with a few things and some window rules, and welcome to Vesttop. It worked. I also realized I don't really want WPGTK. I had misunderstood exactly what it was in my research. I thought it was something that would allow me to set a system-wide theme. So instead of that, for theming, I guess I'll rock with the most popular and most ported theme, Catpuchin, which I do like. It's just a little bit overplayed, but I guess that's because it is a nice color scheme. But I also use this because since it's ported for so many apps that, I thought it would be easy to integrate system-wide. But no, I have to manually configure each individual app with it. Unless I'm just missing something. Please enlighten me if I can just easily configure Catpuchin and it goes system-wide. Because what I did was tinker around and try to figure out a way to configure everything in one go. But I'm really not sure how to do this, so I just ended up implementing it for my terminal. What I had planned to do was use it throughout my entire system, hopefully with like a single file that contains all of the colors, and then it can port to everything that I use. And then I would just go in that file and adjust the colors based on my preferences. So I have to do a little bit more research on that. Oh, and I also wanted to add niche, hyperlock, a dock, and Zathura. That is an awesome name, which is a PDF reader. Oh, and I guess Qt5CT is actually supposed to be libraries for Qt5.Qt5CT. Now I can get it all built and niche. Nice. Okay, I don't know. It's everybody's rice has like their fetcher just displayed right there, and I don't know. It's cool. And as you can see, it took me 6 hours and 42 minutes to get to this point. I don't know if that's quick, I don't know if that's slow, but it's how long it took me. What I think would be a fun project, because this doesn't seem like a very complex thing to build, in NeoFetch is deprecated, right? I think it would be fun to recreate niche or NeoFetch or any of the other fetchers, like FastFetch I think is one, but in Rust, since I'm learning Rust. Just got to add in a bind for Hyperlock, make the config for Zathura. I have no PDF to show it working, but I can for the doc, so I'll just do basic style.css for the doc, add in some binds, fixing this typo would be helpful, and now I can toggle it on. And finally, it's time to shut down. Wait, shut down. There we go. Wow, that was awesome. I enjoyed that a lot. And now, in this video, I was planning on doing a full programming setup, but simply put, I ran out of time. And I feel like this video was already long enough, so what I'm going to do next is set everything up specifically for programming, which is not just going to be my NeoVim setup, because I still have to figure all of that out, but I'm also going to probably have VS Code. I am going to have I'm doing all of Rust and stuff in VS Code right now. Maybe I'll try out Rust Rover, JetBrains stuff. Maybe I'll just do all JetBrains stuff. I'm not sure. WebStorm or Fleet or whatever their VS Code replacement is. Oh no, I really like JetBrains stuff. Oh, that reminds me. This month I'm actually going to be dabbling with some Kotlin and Couture, speaking of JetBrains. Anyway, but yeah, my next video over the next month or two, I'm going to be playing around with it, using it, see what I like, what I don't like, figure out this whole theming issue, figure out what the heck flakes are, because I still don't know what that is. I don't know if I need them, but I guess I don't know until I actually dive into that research. So theme, setting it all up for programming, using it, fixing it, adjusting it, and then I'm going to make a video about my NixOS setup for software development. So if you're interested in that, subscribe if you want, hit the bell if you want. I don't upload that much, so it's not like you're going to be getting blasted with notifications or anything like that. But thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully it's the Rust video. I actually think I am doing some JavaScript video next, but the Rust video will come eventually. All right.